Okay, it's been a while since I've done one of these wrestler versus wrestler sort of scenarios. I do lots of the comic books, and I haven't done that much with wrestlers recently, so I decided to go with one of the first ones that people recommended that I do this with. And that was The Rock HBK. I don't think these guys really that much introduction. It's one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time versus the most electrifying man in sports entertainment history. They're really not monikers. For the most part, they're relatively true. Now, differing from how I do the ones with the comic book characters, this one I have a lot more different scenarios. I have my list in front of me to make sure I don't make a mistake this time. Strength, speed, endurance, toughness. Think of this like, how much beating do they take before they really start to show the signs of it. Striking, grappling. This is how well do you do your suplexes, how well do you do, your clinch style moves. Submissions, high flying. And now we get into a whole different scenario where I've got how over are you with the crowd? What's your overall in-ring psychology? And how well is your mic work? So, let's get right into this. Now, I pick these two guys kind of at their prime, which seems kind of weird since both of them have had multiple times when they're at their prime. HBK was face, super over face. The other time before he wins the match with Bret Hart, the first ever Iron Man match. Do you have his time as DX as a heel, or as kind of face do you have when he came back? Shawn Michaels has had a very storied career. With The Rock, you just have that one time frame. So, at their relative heights, first and foremost, strength. Shawn Michaels, strong guy, but he does not have anywhere near the strength The Rock has. Now we're at speed. I'm sorry, when it comes to the speed, this is Shawn Michaels' game. Overall endurance. This is, how long does a match go before you begin to gas out? They both had Iron Man matches. They did. The one that Shawn Michaels had was a lot more involved than the one The Rock had. Shawn Michaels normally had much longer matches with a lot more moves thrown into them than you saw for The Rock. So for endurance, I'm going to go with HBK on this one. For overall toughness. During the pre-Attitude Era, wrestling was not as rough. You had a lot more spots. And we all know Michaels put his body on the absolute line a lot. That's why his career got shortened. Comparing those sorts of matches pre-Attitude Era to the Attitude Era matches, The Rock had some absolutely just brutal matches. So I'm going to give The Rock the edge in the overall toughness. So the physical attributes, they're pretty much tied to a piece. Now we're going to go to some of the actual, ring work sides of it. Striking. From this aspect, I'm going to give this one to Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels had a higher degree of different sorts of strikes. His finishing move was, of course, a super kick. He had a lot more overall physical striking moves than you saw from The Rock. The Rock is very much a punch kick sort of guy. He's a punch kick clothesline guy. There's really not a whole lot of back elbows. There's no drop kicks. There's really nothing where he actually leaves the ground. Grappling. In this one, it's also going to go to Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels, being a smaller guy, just had a much greater acclimate when it came to his overall grappling moves. You can watch when he had matches against someone like Kurt Angle, a very prolific grappler. Chris Benoit, again, very prolific grappler. Bret Hart. So he actually knew a tremendous amount of actual in-ring, catch-style wrestling. Now we're on to submissions. This is kind of a bizarre one for these two guys. While The Rock did occasionally use the Sharpshooter, his Sharpshooter was horrible. On Shawn Michaels' side, he did use a Sharpshooter from time to time, especially when feuding with someone like Bret Hart. He used it later on while feuding with other wrestlers, and he also had access to the crossface. So for submission style, I'm probably going to give this one, again, a slight edge to HBK. So now, as of right now, going through all the physical sides and all the physical in-ring abilities, Shawn Michaels is up 5-2. Oh, we're also at high flying. Shawn Michaels actually left the ground a lot, whether it was moonsaults, a really good top rope elbow. The Rock, nah. The Rock doesn't have that many. Rock does not have high flying moves. There's no La Planchas from The Rock. So we're actually now at 6-2 for Shawn Michaels. We're now getting into the last scenario where it's how well do they work the crowd? What's their overall psychology? So go over with the crowd. Michaels at his height was super over with the crowd. He was a great face, he was a great heel. But I don't think he quite got some of the reactions you saw from The Rock. You know, the Rock, pretty good job over with the crowd. You get some really good reactions. But I don't think people, when The Rock was here, I don't think people hated him as much as they hated Shawn Michaels. When Shawn Michaels was the ultimate babyface, you know, people really got into his matches. A lot more than what you see with somebody like The Rock. So I'm going to give Shawn Michaels the edge and over with the crowd. Yeah, The Rock may get a bigger pop every now and then, but he doesn't get as sustained of a pop as someone like Shawn Michaels. The Rock gets a huge pop now because he's still very much a novelty act. Michaels, we see him almost like once a month. So during the height of their careers, I would say that Shawn Michaels was over more than The Rock during the height of his career. Ring psychology. The Rock, decent in the ring, but again during the Attitude Era, it was more of the big style moves. There wasn't that much in the way of overall ring psychology. Where Michaels, tremendous student of the game, still uses ring psychology even in his later matches. So right now it's 2 for The Rock, and we're up to 7 now for Shawn Michaels. I should tell you, this is an 11-point scale, so it's 2 to 7. That can't be right. I have to go through this again. I have strength and toughness for The Rock. So that means I have speed, endurance, striking, grappling, submission, high flying, over the crowd. My mistake. It is 8 to 2. Mic work. The Rock, it was ridiculous on the mic. Michaels, good on the mic, but if these two had an actual verbal confrontation, The Rock would own him. If these two guys were to get into a match in their prime, the Showstopper, the main event, Mr. WrestleMania, would undeniably own The Rock in a match.